My name is Katie Harris, and I'm a PhD student in the Division of Plant Science and Technology. My major focus is entomology, or the study of insects. So what I do is I study the monarch butterfly here at South Farm Research Center. The monarch is in decline, and it has been for a couple of decades now, and it actually was recently listed on the IUCN Red List, which is sort of this international list of animals that need protection. So this is actually a good thing that the monarch has been listed on this, because now we can maybe form some policy and help the monarchs, because now we know that they are in decline and that they need our help. Monarchs their populations are sort of measured by the area of land that they take up when they overwinter in parts of Mexico. So like say 2019, that winter it was around 6 hectares of land, and that just means that when they went to count the monarchs, that's how much space these monarchs took up in the forest and on the trees. They kind of clumped together. So that's measured every single year, and it has been going down for the last couple of decades, the populations in general. And the last couple of years have actually been quite low, hovering around, 2.8 to 2.4 hectares of land, which is a lot less than in previous years. So the work that I do here at South Farm is actually to try to figure out what the monarchs like. So we want to create habitat that's good for the monarchs so that it's actually being used by them, so we can be the most efficient with our time and our money as possible. So some of the research that we've done is out here at South Farm, we planted these beautiful plots. These plots some of them have nectar plants surrounding clumps of milkweed in the center, and some of them do not have nectar plants surrounding milkweed in the center. So we wanted to see, since nectar is an important resource for monarchs, we wanted to see if having the nectar nearby the milkweed is critical for the female monarchs to want to use it for their eggs. The monarchs really need milkweed. They need this in order to complete their life cycle. The monarch comes and lays the egg on milkweed or plants in the genus Asclepias, and the caterpillars hatch out, and they'll eat and eat and eat as much as they can, as fast as they can, and then once they've eaten enough milkweed, they'll pupate and then turn into a butterfly. So it's absolutely critical that we have milkweed to complete the life cycle of the monarch, and then when the monarch is an adult, what we need is nectar plants. So nectar is kind of like Gatorade for monarchs. They like to slurp in that sugary liquid, and that's what helps them store lipids for fall migration and also fuel their flight. We have all of these plots out here that have milkweed, and we look at if they like swamp milkweed or common milkweed better to lay their eggs on. What we've been finding is that they typically go for swamp milkweed a little more often than they do for common, but those are both really good species to plant here in Missouri. And then depending on how other insects have been affecting them throughout the summer, sometimes they will switch to liking common a little bit more. So those are some 2 powerhouse milkweeds right there. We would recommend avoiding planting the climbing milkweed or the vining milkweed, and also the tropical milkweed. So the climbing milkweed, it's been shown that monarchs don't do well on them. They aren't able to complete their life cycle as quickly, and they don't really grow as well on it. And then the tropical milkweed, although it looks beautiful and the monarchs love it, it's actually not native, and in parts of the United States, like down in Florida, there's invasive tropical milkweed that has gotten in, and it survives all year long, unlike normal milkweed, which kind of disappears in the winter, and that has caused monarchs to no longer migrate out of Florida. And it's kind of like this population that just keeps cycling in Florida, and then sickness builds up like OE, the protozoan ectoparasite, and it's just not the best for our North American monarch. Especially here in central Missouri, we see a lot of these little yellow aphids pop up on our plants, and they gain high densities really, really quickly, and sometimes it makes the plants look really sad because they're taking resources from the plants, the milkweed plants specifically. What other researchers have found is that a little bit of aphid feeding might actually be beneficial for the monarch caterpillar. So these aphids have a different mode of feeding from plants than caterpillars do. So imagine if you're trying to drink soda from a straw. That's kind of how these aphids feed. They've got something called a stylet, and they stick it into the plant, and they weave between individual cells, and they actually suck out the plant phloem, which is like sugar water. And there's a defensive method that plants use against insects that feed like that. But our monarch caterpillars are chewing insects, so they're kind of like if you ate a salad, you kind of munch along on the plant tissue. And so then if the plant is defending against the piercing, sucking insect, there might be less defenses for the caterpillar to have to get around. So the caterpillar should be able to eat a little bit better on the plant. But when the aphids build too high of density, then the plant is unhappy and it's just not as good of a resource for the caterpillars. Some of our research that we've done with monarch and their choices for laying eggs in a greenhouse setting, we found that monarchs do tend to lay eggs on milkweed that has aphids on them up into a point. So a lot of people like to help out monarchs in any way that they can, and sometimes they'll take eggs from the wild, like monarch eggs from the wild, and they'll bring them inside and protect them from predators and grow them up and then release them as butterflies. And while this is a very nice thing to do, I would recommend against that, just because there's been some research found that when monarchs are raised or reared indoors, they actually lose their ability to orient south again for the winter, and that could be potentially detrimental. So I would recommend instead, if you wanted to help protect these insects from predators, and you really wanted to rear them outside in a screened enclosure. So this would provide them with the natural day and night cycle and the natural temperature fluctuations that they would get in the wild,